Well, one would think we would go to the institution and make them pay rather than making the taxpayer pay, which ultimately it will come from the taxpayers. Just recently, the communications secretary the press secretary for Biden was asked this question: who is going to pay for this stuff? And this is what she had to say about it.
Do you all believe that this student loan program is fully paid for? And if it's not, why does the president think it was important to have all of his other spending priorities fully paid for to be fiscally responsible, but not this one?
So we do, so this, again, this is the question that my colleague here, Ambassador, got. So we have to get a better sense, right, of what we're talking about as far as cost. Wait, let me just say that out loud. She is the domestic policy advisor, and when she was asked that question, so I just want to iterate what she said. But we do believe it will be fully paid for because of the work that this president has done with the economy, because of what you just said. What I just said is what we have done to bring down the deficit reduction. That matters, and the work that we'll continue to do. Look, when you look at IRA, it is also that $300 billion deficit is going to matter, right? When you think about that 1.7 trillion by the end of this fiscal year is going to matter as well. And also, here's the thing: when the pause being lifted, that's going to bring $50 billion per year back into the Treasury.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
So let me just help you with this one. The person who's going to pay for it is, well, you. And maybe not even you, because you're still paying for the generation before you's bad decision making, and you're probably going to pass this on to your kids. We'll get to this in a moment too. But let's just jump into the idea that colleges are just some big Ponzi scheme offering, as Bill Maher said, a golden ticket to the middle class that actually never comes into fruition and doesn't really happen. That more and more the demands for college education is raising, but there really isn't a need for college education as much as we're trying to make out of it. So the idea is this: is that a Ponzi scheme is an investment where it's a high yield return with very little risk. This is ultimately what a Ponzi scheme is, because the reality is that the biggest return on investments are those investments that have the highest risk. But when we come to a admissions office at a college university, we're told, hey, you take out these loans. You don't have to pay a dime of it until you graduate. And so it's really low risk. You don't even see that money until you just get a piece of paper. And what is that piece of paper anyway? But think about the reward that you're going to get. It's low risk, super high reward. You're going to come out of college with a great degree. It's going to afford you an amazing job, and you'll make tons of money, and you'll pay off those student loans debts in no time. Of course, we all know that to be a complete fabricated lie. But here is the difference between the Ponzi scheme of schools and the Ponzi schemes that happen in the real world. The biggest Ponzi scheme, of course, that's ever taken place is the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme. But you may ask yourself, who is going to pay back those people who were defrauded by Bernie Madoff? Well, according to the CIO publication, it says this: in March 2009, Madoff pled guilty to 11 federal felonies and admitted to running the world's largest Ponzi scheme. In June of that year, he was sentenced to 150 years in prison in order to forfeit $170.8 billion. The Madoff Victim Fund is funded through recoveries by the U.S. Attorney's Office and various criminal and civil forfeiture actions, and is overseen by Richard Breeden, the former chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Madoff died in prison in April at age 82. Of the approximately $4.05 billion that will be made available to victims through the Madoff Victim Fund, $2.2 billion was collected as part of the civil forfeiture recovery from the estate of Jeffrey Pickowar, a deceased Madoff investor. Another $1.7 billion was collected as a part of a deferred prosecution agreement with J.P. Morgan Chase Bank for Madoff-related Bank Secrecy Act violations. So in other words, who's paying for that Ponzi scheme? Well, it's not the taxpayers. It's the people who participated in and benefited from that Ponzi scheme. They are the ones who are paying for it. So the federal government isn't even paying for the Madoff Victim Fund. And the same should be true of these college loans. If you want real justice, if you want real reparations, then what you should do is not put this further on a national debt and have no way of paying for these college student loans. You should actually go to the institutions and make them make the necessary requisite restitution to students. That's the only way for this to actually look like anything just. But we're not actually talking about justice. We're asking for handouts. Long gone are the days of JFK and saying,
"Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country."
So you just got done watching a small excerpt of a much larger episode. You can find the link to that full episode down below in the description of this video. So you definitely need to check that out, because if you like that clip, you'll like the much larger episode. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and click that little bell to be notified when great new episodes of Indie Thinker come your way. Thanks for watching.